know he's bitter now. I know he's struggling. So he's going into these weird, dark places, but it just... so tired of him.
Welcome back to Glow Gossips USA, where we uncover the most shocking truths behind the Sister Wives universe, secrets that TLC never wanted you to hear. Today's story is one that's shaking the fandom to its core. After years of manipulation, heartbreak, and control, the man once called the family leader stands at the edge of ruin. Kody Brown, the polygamous patriarch who built his life around control and image, is now sitting in a courtroom. Not as a husband or father, but as a defendant facing decades behind bars. And the most jaw-dropping part? The very women who once stood beside him are now the ones ready to bring him down. The morning was cold and gray when the courthouse doors opened in Flagstaff, Arizona. Cameras lined the steps. Reporters shouted questions. Fans of the Sister Wives show held signs, some in support, most filled with rage. One read, "Justice for the Sister Wives." Another said, "Kody's karma has arrived." Inside, tension clung to the air like a storm waiting to break. Kody Brown sat at the defense table, wearing a dark gray suit, his once golden curls slightly unkempt, his expression unreadable. For the first time in years, he wasn't in control. There was no family meeting, no TLC camera dictating the narrative. This time, the truth would be decided by a judge and jury. The charges against him were staggering: financial fraud, misuse of family funds, deceptive property dealings. But beyond the legal jargon, what truly stung was betrayal, the emotional wreckage he left behind. For years, his wives trusted him, followed his leadership, and built dreams around Coyote Pass and plural unity. But behind closed doors, Kody had allegedly moved money, signed secret deeds, and funneled cash through accounts no one else knew existed. The revelations came piece by piece, and each one cut deeper than the last. Across the courtroom sat the women who had once been his world: Meri, Janelle, Christine, and even Robyn, though her presence carried a different weight. Meri looked composed but distant, her face carved with quiet strength. Janelle's eyes burned with cold determination. Christine, ever the empath, looked torn between sadness and anger. And then there was Robyn, the woman once called the favorite wife. Her mascara was thick, her hand trembling as she adjusted her blouse. For the first time, even Robyn didn't look sure of where she stood. When the judge entered, the entire room fell silent. This court is now in session for the case of State versus Kody Brown. The sound echoed like thunder. Kody's attorney leaned over, whispering something that made him nod stiffly. His jaw tightened. He glanced back at his former wives, his eyes landing on Christine. She didn't look away. That defiance, the same courage that once pushed her to walk away from the marriage, was now magnified. She had no fear left. The prosecution started their case with a simple statement. For years, Mr. Brown portrayed himself as a man of faith and family, but behind that image, he orchestrated a system of deceit. He took from those closest to him, all while calling it love. The words hit like knives. Janelle lowered her head. Meri pressed her lips together tightly. Even Robyn flinched. Kody's hand twitched, a small, visible crack in his composure. As the testimonies began, the story unfolded like a slow-motion explosion. First came the bank statements. Transactions from joint accounts, showing large withdrawals made without the wives' knowledge. Then came property deeds signed over solely to Kody and Robyn's names. Coyote Pass plots that were once promised to the family as a shared dream. "He told us we'd all build there." Christine's voice trembled as she read her written statement aloud. "He said it would be our forever home. But while we were saving, he was already planning to make it his and Robyn's alone." The courtroom murmured. Robyn's eyes filled with tears as she looked toward the floor. Kody whispered to his lawyer, shaking his head violently, but Christine didn't stop. "We gave him everything, our trust, our finances, our loyalty, and when we questioned him, he called it betrayal. But the real betrayal was his." Her voice cracked but didn't break. Every word landed heavy. Even the judge leaned slightly forward, listening. Outside the courthouse, social media exploded. Fans who once saw Kody as a complicated father figure now called him a manipulator. Our Justice for Christine and our Kody Exposed trended across platforms. Former TLC crew members began speaking out anonymously, claiming they'd seen signs of tension long before the cameras stopped rolling. Kody was always in control, one source said. He directed the narrative. Who could speak? What emotions were allowed? The Sister Wives weren't a family on screen. They were performers surviving his version of love. As the day wore on, Kody's defense tried to paint him as a misunderstood man, a father who only wanted structure. His attorney spoke passionately. Mr. Brown's actions were not criminal. They were choices made in good faith to preserve the family's future. This is not a case of fraud, but a case of family miscommunication. But the jury's eyes told another story. They weren't buying it. When Meri was called to the stand, the atmosphere shifted again. She took a deep breath before speaking. "I spent over 30 years defending this man," she said. "Even when he emotionally discarded me, even when he told me our marriage was nothing but a friendship, I stayed quiet. But I can't stay quiet anymore." Her voice was calm but razor sharp. "He told me lies about the finances. He made me sign documents I didn't fully understand. I believed him because I thought he loved us. But Kody only loves control." Kody's face flushed red. He couldn't hide the anger building beneath his silence. His hand slammed lightly against the table, earning a warning glance from the judge. The moment captured perfectly what many had suspected for years. Kody Brown didn't like losing power. By afternoon recess, whispers filled every hallway of the courthouse. TLC producers had reportedly been subpoenaed for financial records from filming seasons of Sister Wives. Rumors spread that the network itself might face scrutiny for ignoring signs of exploitation and financial misconduct. This wasn't just Kody's reckoning, it was the collapse of an entire empire built on illusion. When the court reconvened, Janelle took the stand. Her statement carried the quiet authority of someone who had reached her breaking point long ago. "Kody never wanted equality," she said. "He wanted obedience. When I questioned where the money was going, he told me I wasn't being loyal. When I refused to sign my name to another land deal, he called me selfish. But now I see I was protecting my children." Tears welled in her eyes. "He said he was building for us, but in the end, he was only building for Robyn." Robyn looked up sharply at that. Her lips parted as if to speak, but her attorney stopped her with a hand on her arm. The air thickened. It wasn't just a courtroom anymore. It was the battlefield where years of manipulation, favoritism, and silence finally came to light. Even Christine's new husband, David Woolley, was seen in the back row, his hand resting supportively on Christine's shoulder during recess. The media caught the photo instantly, dubbing it the moment Christine won. Fans flooded the comments online, calling it poetic justice. The woman who once felt invisible finally standing tall while the man who silenced her faced the consequences. As the first day of testimony closed, the judge ordered a brief recess before resuming the next morning. Kody walked out of the courtroom, flanked by his lawyer, cameras flashing all around him. Reporters shouted questions. "Kody, do you regret what you did? Are the sister wives telling the truth?" He ignored them, jaw tight, eyes distant. Robyn followed behind, clutching her bag tightly, her face pale. For a split second, she looked back at Meri and Christine, two women who once called her sister. And there was something unreadable in her eyes. Guilt, fear, or perhaps both. Later that night, in a dimly lit Flagstaff hotel room, Kody sat alone. The phone buzzed constantly, missed calls from Robyn, texts from his attorney, and a flood of messages from unknown numbers. He stared at the muted TV where a news anchor discussed the trial. "The once celebrated polygamist family now faces its darkest hour," the anchor said. With accusations of fraud and deceit, Kody Brown could be facing up to 35 years in prison. His reflection in the screen looked older, broken, unrecognizable. He thought back to the early days, the laughter, the shared meals, the idea of family unity that he once sold to the world. But somewhere along the line, control had replaced love. Pride had replaced humility. Now all that was left was a man stripped of power and a family that no longer needed him. Meanwhile, Meri and Janelle sat together that night. For the next morning dawned heavy and still, the Arizona air thick with anticipation. Reporters had camped outside the courthouse overnight, their lenses fogged with morning dew as fans gathered once again. Headlines blared across every network. The fall of Kody Brown, day 2 of trial begins. The courthouse, once a silent government building, now pulsed with the energy of a national spectacle. Everyone wanted to know, would the once famous polygamist finally face justice? Inside, the courtroom buzzed with whispered conversations. Meri sat near Janelle and Christine, their silent unity stronger than ever. For years, their lives had revolved around the same man. Now their testimonies would be the nails sealing his fate. But something felt different today. The prosecution had hinted the night before that new evidence would emerge, something that could change the entire course of the trial. Kody entered with shoulders squared but eyes dark, his jaw clenched like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Robyn trailed behind him, a trembling hand pressed against her chest. Her eyes were swollen from crying and whispers spread instantly. Would she testify today? The idea of Robyn taking the stand sent a ripple through the courtroom. She had always been Kody's fiercest defender, but now even she looked uncertain, fragile, like a woman standing on the edge of an impossible choice. The judge entered, bringing the room to order. Court is now in session. The echo of the gavel cut through the murmurs. The prosecution stood tall, files in hand, their expressions calm but sharp. Your Honor, began the lead prosecutor, today we present witness testimony from individuals directly involved in the management of the Brown family's television finances. Producers from TLC, accountants, and network legal counsel. Gasps rippled across the room. TLC? Even Kody's lawyer looked momentarily stunned. The network had always kept distance from family conflicts, maintaining its image as merely an observer. But that illusion was about to crumble. The first witness was a former TLC production manager named Hannah Porter. She looked nervous but resolute as she was sworn in. Ms. Porter, the prosecutor began, were you personally involved in the budget and compensation management of Sister Wives filming? She nodded. Yes, for multiple seasons. And during that time, did you ever receive direction from Mr. Kody Brown regarding how payments should be distributed to the wives? Her voice tightened. Yes, he asked that all payments be sent to a single account, an account under his control. The audience gasped. Kody's face turned crimson. His lawyer objected immediately, calling it irrelevant, but the judge overruled. Hannah continued, he claimed it was for tax purposes. But when we asked for the other wives' signatures, he said they were not available or not involved in finances. We believed him. She looked toward Christine and Janelle. I'm sorry, she said softly. Christine wiped her eyes. It wasn't just a courtroom battle anymore. It was the unmasking of years of manipulation. Next came an accountant who worked with the family's production contracts. He presented bank records that showed Kody transferring over $450,000 from TLC payments into a private real estate fund, without notifying the other wives. The evidence hit like a thunderclap. The courtroom erupted in murmurs until the judge's gavel struck again. Order! There will be order! Kody leaned toward his attorney, whispering furiously, but nothing could undo the impact of those documents. For every claim of misunderstanding, there was a bank statement saying otherwise. The money trail didn't lie. Then came something no one expected, a secret recording. The prosecution played a short audio clip recovered from a crew member's laptop. In it, Kody could be heard during an off-camera discussion with Robyn saying, "They'll never know. We'll put it under the family account, and they'll trust me like always." The sound of his own voice filled the courtroom. Robyn gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Kody froze. His lawyer shot to his feet, demanding the clip be excluded, but the judge allowed it, citing relevance. Christine closed her eyes, tears falling silently. The betrayal had been captured in real time. The prosecution ended the morning session with a chilling line. Mr. Brown used faith as his cover, family as his weapon, and trust as his currency. That ends today. During the lunch break, outside on the courthouse steps, the crowd was wild. Fans cried, reporters shouted, and social media exploded. Kody Brown trial topped global trends. Even former TLC personalities posted their reactions. One tweet from a My Five Wives cast member read, "We always knew something was off. Glad the truth's out." Inside a small break room, Robyn sat alone, clutching a tissue. Her attorney knelt beside her. "You don't have to testify," he said quietly. "You can plead spousal privilege." Robyn shook her head, tears falling freely. "I can't lie anymore. Not after that recording. He said it was for us, but I didn't know it was this." When court resumed, the unthinkable happened. Robyn Brown took the stand. Kody's face went white. He gripped the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles blanched. The courtroom buzzed like static. The judge nodded. "Mrs. Brown, you may proceed." Robyn's voice quivered at first. "I never thought I'd be here," she began. "I loved Kody. I still love him in some way. But there are things people don't know." Her words hung heavy. "When he told me to trust him with the finances, I did. He said it was better for the family, that we'd look like a united front. I didn't question it. But when the money started disappearing, I did ask." She paused, wiping her face. "He told me not to worry, that the others wouldn't understand the business side. He said they'd only cause drama." The prosecutor asked, "Did you ever confront him?" Robyn nodded slowly. Yes, and he told me that if I ever went against him, I'd lose everything. The house, the family, even him. A sob escaped her throat. He made me believe that loyalty meant silence. The courtroom was dead quiet except for her trembling breaths. Meri and Janelle exchanged stunned looks. Even Christine's anger softened for a brief moment, because for all their differences, it was clear now that Kody had used control like a weapon against them all. When cross-examined by Kody's lawyer, Robyn held her ground. "Mrs. Brown," the lawyer said sharply, "aren't you testifying out of fear for your own reputation? You benefited from Mr. Brown's choices, didn't you?" Robyn shook her head, voice steady now. "No, I benefited from his lies. And that's something I'll regret for the rest of my life." Kody slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "That's not true!" The judge immediately intervened. "Mr. Brown, you will remain silent." His outburst only made things worse. The jury's eyes shifted toward him, their expressions hardening. By late afternoon, the atmosphere felt electric. Every wall of denial Kody had built was cracking. The prosecution introduced one final piece of evidence, a hidden property deed filed under a shell company, its mailing address linked directly to Robyn's online boutique. Robyn looked stunned. Even she hadn't known about it. "This proves intent to conceal assets," the prosecutor said. This was not a misunderstanding. It was manipulation. As court adjourned for the day, Kody stormed past reporters, ignoring their questions. Cameras captured him snapping, "You don't know the truth. They're all lying." His voice echoed through the marble halls. Robyn followed several steps behind, tears streaking her face as security guided her to a car. That evening, as twilight fell over Flagstaff, the sister wives' separate worlds collided once again. Christine hosted Meri and Janelle at her Airbnb rental. They sat in quiet disbelief as the evening news replayed Robyn's testimony. "I can't believe she actually did it," Janelle said softly. "I thought she'd protect him till the end." Christine nodded slowly. "Maybe she finally saw what we did all along, that Kody doesn't protect anyone but himself." Meri sighed. "Do you think he'll really go to prison?" Christine looked out the window, the desert horizon glowing orange. "If there's any justice left in this world," she said, "then yes." Meanwhile, in a dim motel on the outskirts of town, Kody sat alone again. The blinds were drawn. His phone buzzed nonstop, but he ignored every call. On the muted TV, commentators dissected his every word. His empire, his image was collapsing. He'd built his legacy on authority, on being the man everyone followed. But now he was the man everyone feared, pitied, or hated. The walls were closing in, and for the first time in decades, Kody Brown was powerless. Across town, Robyn couldn't sleep. She replayed her testimony over and over, the sound of her own voice haunting her. She remembered how Kody once looked at her with devotion, how he'd promised her she'd never have to suffer like the others. But that promise had come with a price. She'd become his accomplice without realizing it, part of the machine that destroyed them all. The next morning, part 3 of the trial, the final verdict, would begin. TLC's lawyers were expected to testify, and rumors swirled that the state might pursue additional charges for tax evasion and document forgery. The stakes were higher than ever. As dawn broke, a sense of reckoning filled the air. The sister wives weren't just witnesses now. They were survivors rewriting their own story. And Kody Brown, once the king of plural love, was about to face the ultimate judgment, not from his family, but from the law. The final chapter was coming, and this time no one, not even Robyn, could stop it. The final morning arrived like a storm hiding behind silence. Flagstaff's courthouse loomed under a blanket of gray clouds, the kind that made the desert look almost cold. Crowds had doubled overnight. News vans lined the street, their dishes pointed skyward. Microphones tangled in a chorus of anticipation. Inside, the air was heavy, tense, and strangely sacred, as if everyone sensed history was about to turn a page. Kody Brown entered the courtroom first, escorted by 2 deputies. His once golden curls hung limp, streaked with exhaustion. The confident smile he'd worn for years was gone, replaced by the hard stare of a man who had run out of explanations. Behind him came Robyn, eyes red, fingers twisting the edge of her coat. Meri, Janelle, and Christine were already seated together. For the first time in decades, the 3 women shared a quiet solidarity that didn't come from obedience, but from freedom. The judge took his seat. "Court is in session. We will now hear the final arguments before the verdict." The gavel struck once, echoing through the room like a heartbeat. The prosecution rose first. Their voice was calm but cutting. For years, Mr. Brown presented himself as a man of faith, a husband of integrity. But the evidence has shown a pattern: financial deceit, emotional coercion, and exploitation of those who trusted him most. We are not here because of misunderstandings. We are here because of choices. Deliberate, calculated choices. As they spoke, images flashed on the projector. Bank transfers, false deeds, screenshots of hidden accounts. Every slide felt like another brick collapsing from Kody's carefully built facade. The prosecutor ended simply, "Justice is not revenge. It is recognition of truth." Kody's lawyer stood, pacing slowly. "Mr. Brown is no criminal," he argued. "He is a flawed man in a complicated family. He acted out of confusion, not greed. This case is not about fraud, it's about family hurt. Do we really want to criminalize heartbreak?" But the words hung hollow. No one looked convinced. Even Kody's own eyes betrayed the argument. He knew the damage was too deep for sympathy. Then, to the court's surprise, the judge invited victim impact statements. Meri stood first. Her voice trembled at the edges but carried steel underneath. "For years, I thought loyalty meant silence. I watched him turn our lives into his kingdom. I watched myself disappear trying to keep peace. But silence only protects the wrong people. Today, I speak because I want my life back." Janelle followed. "I don't hate Kody," she said. "I pity him. He built walls so high that even love couldn't climb them. We begged for partnership, and he gave us commands. Now the truth has done what we couldn't. It set us free." When Christine walked to the stand, the room held its breath. She looked radiant, calm, and heartbreakingly human. "People think this is about money," she said softly. "It's not. It's about honesty. He told us God wanted it this way, that questioning him was sin. But God doesn't hide behind bank accounts. He doesn't demand silence. I hope one day Kody learns that truth." Even Robyn wept silently as Christine returned to her seat. Finally, Robyn asked to speak. The judge hesitated, then allowed it. She stood shakily. "I believed in him," she whispered. "I believed we were building something righteous. But faith without truth is just fear. And I've lived in fear for too long. I'm sorry to everyone I hurt defending him." Her tears fell freely. The courtroom felt the weight of it, the last piece of denial crumbling. After closing statements, the jury was dismissed to deliberate. The room emptied into anxious murmurs. Reporters hurried to file updates. Outside, chants mixed with prayers, some for mercy, most for justice. Hours passed. The sun began to sink, painting the desert gold. Inside, the courtroom filled again. Kody sat motionless, his hands clasped so tightly they shook. The jurors filed in, faces solemn. The four-person stood. "In the matter of State versus Kody Brown, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty on all counts." Gasps, cries, the sound of decades collapsing into a single moment. Kody's breath hitched. Robyn covered her mouth in shock. Meri's hand found Janelle's. Christine closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. The judge's voice was steady. "Mr. Brown, you have been found guilty of financial fraud, tax evasion, and misuse of family assets. You are hereby sentenced to 35 years in federal custody, with the possibility of parole after 28. The gavel struck. It was done. Kody sagged forward, the air leaving his body. For a man who had built an empire of control, defeat felt like death itself. Deputies approached. As they cuffed his wrists, he muttered under his breath, "They were my family. I was trying to save us." But no one answered. The courtroom had already moved past him. Robyn sobbed uncontrollably. Meri turned away. Janelle whispered a prayer under her breath. Christine stood, watching silently as Kody was led away. For a fleeting second, their eyes met. And for the first time, he looked small. Not the roaring patriarch of sister wives, but just a man crushed beneath his own choices. Outside, the world erupted. Cameras flashed like lightning. Fans screamed. Reporters shouted over one another. Kody Brown sentenced to 35 years. Splashed across every screen. Commentators dissected every frame. Robyn's tears, Meri's calm face, Christine's quiet triumph. For millions, it felt like justice. For the Browns, it was the end of an era. That night, Flagstaff glowed with the strange quiet that follows chaos. Christine sat on her porch with David Woolley, the desert wind brushing her hair. He squeezed her hand gently. "It's over," he said. Christine nodded. "For him, maybe. For us. It's finally beginning." Across town, Meri packed boxes in her bed and breakfast. Each folded sweater felt like a piece of her past finally laid to rest. She paused to write in her journal. After 33 years, I choose peace. The words were simple but powerful. She smiled for the first time in weeks. Janelle spent the evening with her children, laughing softly as they shared takeout and memories. I used to think we'd always be tied to him, she told her daughter Savannah. But we're not. We can still love who we were, without belonging to him. And Robyn? She sat alone in the quiet of her dark living room, scrolling through social media headlines that screamed his name. Every photo showed her crying. Every caption called her the fallen favorite. She whispered to the silence. He promised he'd never leave me. Then, finally, she whispered what she'd never dared to say aloud. But maybe he already did. Meanwhile, in a Stark detention center cell, Kody stared at the blank wall. No cameras, no wives. No audience. Just the echo of his own breath. He replayed their faces. Christine's defiance, Meri's heartbreak, Janelle's strength, Robyn's tears. For the first time, he wondered if love had ever been part of the equation at all. Was it faith or just fear that kept them there? Weeks passed. Life moved on. The sister wives' family released a joint statement, not of bitterness, but closure. It read, "We believe in accountability, in healing, and in truth. This chapter has ended, but we move forward with gratitude for the lessons learned." It was signed by Meri, Janelle, and Kody Brown. Robyn's name was absent. TLC announced the official cancellation of Sister Wives shortly after the verdict. But rumors swirled of a new spin-off, one centered on the women's lives after freedom. Fans called it The Sisters' Rise. Within weeks, Christine and Janelle were seen filming together in Utah, smiling